So let me share the link with the people so that we have the maximum audience, and then inshallah we are going to start this talk. Okay.
Are we going live on Facebook?
Yes, we are live on Facebook right now, but I'm sharing with everyone. So
Assalamu alaikum everyone. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala khatamil anbiya wa sayyidil mursaleen. Amma ba'd. I welcome you all to this Facebook Live with Brother Farid Ahmad. And we are now in self-isolation, and I'm sure Brother Farid is also in quarantine.
Yeah, so you can see no one is around me. It's a perfect quarantine for me as well. Are you in UK right now?
I'm currently in the UK, yes.
Okay, so I've heard that previously they weren't taking it serious, but now they are on a curfew lockdown.
I think everyone was taking it seriously. It just took a while for people to do so. You know, it's one of those things. People don't initially realize how bad a pandemic can be, and when it was realized how bad it is, then of course people started to take it seriously. Most of the people in Britain are now indoors. They are staying at home. अभी घर पे ही हैं सब लोग. Or you know, most people. I mean, usually we would see. I live right in front of a park, and usually we would see a lot of people in the park, especially when it's sunny. But now we have far less people, so people are taking it very seriously.
Okay, so let's start with the question answers. I mean, my just 30 years old now, but never ever have I ever seen a disease of this sort since I was a child. This is the first time I've seen such a pandemic. In fact, the word pandemic is the first time. It's new for me. I knew that there's something called as epidemic, but the word pandemic, it's totally new for me. In Muslim civilization, कितनी दफा पहले इस तरह की pandemic बीमारियां आई हैं? We know about a plague and several ahadith of plague that no plague is going to enter Medina. लेकिन अगर आप statistics अभी देखें, there are a lot of cases in Medina and Mecca and in Saudi Arabia. So what's the difference between a plague and something that is pandemic? A plague क्या होता था? I have no idea about it.
Okay, plague can mean what we call ta'un in the Arabic language. It was usually used for bubonic plague, plague that is spread by rats. That killed a lot of people. And we can look at two examples in particular. One example happened in the early period of Islam when Khulafa Rashidin were conquering lands in Palestine, and one of the cities in Palestine was called Emmaus. In the Arabic language, Amwas. Okay, it is remembered or mentioned within the Islamic sources as Amwas. So this was a famous plague that took place, which killed, according to some of the chroniclers, some of the Muslim historians, 25,000 people. Many of them major companions of the Prophet ﷺ who happened to be in that particular region. And I can give you names. I have actually visited the graves of these companions. Current day Jordan. So this city or this place where the Sahaba are buried is in current day Jordan, near the Dead Sea basically. And the Sahaba who are buried in this place are Abu Ubaidah bin Jarrah, who was a very big Sahabi, a major Sahabi of the Prophet ﷺ. Then we have Muaz bin Jabal, a very famous companion of the Prophet ﷺ, who was killed in the plague. Okay. And then we have Amir bin Shurahbil, who was also a Muslim conqueror in this region, who was killed by this plague. So this was a big trial for the Muslims at the time. And the Prophet ﷺ had mentioned plagues in his hadith. For example, the Prophet ﷺ said in a report that if you find a plague in a place, then do not leave that place. And if you happen to be outside, do not come into that place. So the Arabic word for plague is usually ta'un. And when the Prophet ﷺ said, no plague will enter Medina and Makkah, um, then he actually meant that this may be a particular type of ta'un, which is usually known as the bubonic plague, which also spread in Europe in the 14th century. To be precise, from 1347 to 1351, a large population of Europe, 30 to 60% of European population died because of the bubonic plague. Okay, and it devastated Central Asia, um, Eastern Mediterranean, and Europe. It killed up to, there are estimates about 75 to 200 million people. So a large
Okay.
portion of the global population died in that particular plague. It is called the Black Death. If you Google Black Death, you will get details on it. It was uh, one of the major global pandemics world had ever seen. So you can say that was the first major pandemic that killed millions of people in the history of the world, in the recorded history of the world at least.
Okay,
So
so
yeah,
so that is the past. So इस तरह आपने कहा कि there were a lot other plagues or pandemic incidents from Muslim civilization. Okay, now as we fast forward right now in the 21st century, this question came in my mind and also in mind of a lot of people, that why did Bill Gates in particular gave a talk on biological war? Okay, so he's a person on that authority. He's not a no man. He's not a normal biology teacher in some school, right? He's Bill Gates, right? He has a network of systems. He owns Microsoft. Okay, so was he already aware? And हमारे एक ambassador भी थे UN के past. I believe his name is Abdullah something. तो उन्होंने भी स्टेटमेंट की, he gave all the patent numbers कि ये एक biological war है and there's a conspiracy against it. So in particular, a lot of people like me are confused कि Bill Gates को 2014 में या उसके बाद ही क्यों ये याद आया कि biological war होगी. Can this be a biological war?
I don't think this is a biological war. I cannot say. I'm not an expert in pandemics or viruses. I don't know the nature of this particular virus. With regards to Bill Gates' TED Talk um, a couple of years ago, I think it was 2015 when he talked about it, right? If I'm not
Yeah, I
mistaken.
think 14, 15.
Yes.
I'm not
Yes.
sure about.
And it so happens that I watched one of his recent interviews with Trevor Noah, the comedian.
Yeah, I
Um,
know.
and he interviewed Bill Gates, I think yesterday. And
Yesterday.
this is a very interesting interview. I have already shared it on my Facebook page. If you go on my page, the interview is there. And I put a caption to it. Basically, I wrote that this is a very interesting interview with many indicators for the future. And one
Okay.
has to read between the lines. Bill Gates talked about many things. Trevor Noah actually questioned him directly as to how did you know about this pandemic? It seems you predicted it. And Bill
Yeah.
Gates said, well, I was saying things based upon my knowledge of pandemics because Bill Gates has been working with doctors and medical experts on pandemics in particular because he had known that such a thing will devastate the planet as it is today. Unfortunately, economically, countries are suffering badly. Medical staffs, national health services are crumbling. There are thousands of deaths, in particular among elderly. So Bill Gates said that he was saying the common sense thing. It wasn't a conspiracy of any sort. And Bill Gates also stated that this particular pandemic is natural. It appears to be natural. And that's not to say that in the future there won't be any biologically produced viruses
Weapons,
that
yeah.
may be released, and they'll be far more dangerous than this particular one, right? So, in other words, Bill Gates is already warning, even in this interview, that there may be biological viruses in the future, biologically produced in the lab, that may be released in the world, and they are far more devastating than this one. So these are some of the things to worry about, and the world will be changing very, very fast in the coming days. So, what is my advice in this day and age? My advice is to remain steadfast on Islam, keep your connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, do not lose track of your principles and your values, strengthen your bond with Allah, strengthen your bond with your families. In fact, I believe this pandemic, although very, very bad for the world, generally speaking, it's very unfortunate. There are many, many evil things about this pandemic. But you see, sometimes, difficulties, they can bring positive as well. I'm not saying this pandemic is positive or it's a good thing, but people can take lessons from pandemics such as this. We have all been locked up with our families. We have now suddenly woken up to the reality of our families. We have realized that we have families. Our bonds as families have strengthened. We have realized that this is how we can be locked up, against our wishes. We can be put together, and amazingly, families, kids, parents, have realized that how much they need each other in times like this. And family bonds have strengthened. People have become closer with each other. Children are more loving towards their parents, and parents are more caring towards their children. And there is this positive side as well, which cannot be ignored. And we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala removes this pandemic immediately from the planet and save humanity from any more
Amen.
destruction.
Amen.
And
Okay.
Allah protect all humans. Amen.
Amen. Now, this rises to an interesting question that psychology of a person is different when he knows the lifespan or the tenure of the time he's going to be isolated, in comparison to psychology of a person who is very uncertain. So it's very easy for a criminal who knows that he's going to stay for maybe 3 months or 4 months, in comparison to that person जिसको पता ही नहीं है कि उसने कब रिलीज होना है, ये कब आइसोलेशन खत्म होगी. और even Yusuf alayhi salam, he wasn't aware कि वो कब जेल से छूटेंगे, right? So as a preacher of Islam, representing the tenets of Islam, sometimes we become very depressed. एक mental health का भी issue होता है, ठीक है? How to overcome with that depression sort of a thing living at home? No, I won't go out. मेरे restaurants में खाने हैं. Why am I not hanging out with my friends again? ये क्या हो गया? And especially even for kids like my son, or any other kid of his age, he doesn't understand what pandemic is. He's saying that why am I not going to school? I'm becoming frustrated. What's your advice on that?
But by the way, let me very quickly clarify that we are actually living history. This has never happened in the history of humanity before. And I'm saying this taking into consideration the Black Death and other plagues in human history. This has never happened before on this scale. People may be saying, no, we have had pandemics before and more people died. I know more people died in the past, right? But the scale of this particular pandemic, how the entire world had to go in to lockdown and airports had to shut, people had to stop traveling, people had to stop their businesses, they had to stop their freedom. So this is history in the making. We are living history right now. We are witnesses to a historic cataclysmic event in human history. And I think the world will never be the same again. So we need to think very carefully about our existence in this world. We are highly vulnerable. We are very, very weak as humans. And our weakness has come to light in this pandemic. We are completely powerless. We are now praying to Allah, our creator. Oh, Allah, save us. Oh, Allah, you are the only power who can actually do something about it. America cannot do anything about it. China cannot do anything about it. Russia cannot do anything about it. Oh, Allah, you are the superpower. You protect us. You save us. So this is the situation we're facing right now. We need to take heed. With regards to psychological depression, being locked in and not being able to go out and enjoy life in general, it depends how people see enjoyment. I mean, I am enjoying myself at home. I have a very strong relationship with my family. Alhamdulillah. I cherish these moments that we can sit together and talk to each other as family. We can teach each other things. I had time to teach my children things I had never had time in my life. during these past 15 days, I thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving me this opportunity to sit with my children, where all of them are present, because every single one of them is busy. Some, are going to school, colleges, universities. I'm working, they're working. We are all busy people, right? But we have been locked in, and it can be a blessing where we sit down and we talk to our children. We teach them things we never had the chance to teach them. Likewise, in order to overcome your depression, if you have, developed this sense of enjoyment going outside, then realize that it will not last. Things can change drastically anytime. That's why you need Allah in your lives all the time. Allah is not going anywhere. Your enjoyments can go, your life can end, your health can end, your everything can end in this life. But Allah is not going anywhere. Allah will remain. He is Al-Hayy Al-Qayyum. Okay? Allah does not disappear. That's why you need Allah in all situations. So strengthen your bond with Allah. Practical tips. I'll give you practical tips how you do that. Okay? Read Quran every single day, at least few pages, with meaning, preferably. Right? This is a practical tip. Don't waste your time sitting at home. Read Quran. Then read books. Read the history of Islam. Read Islamic books.
Okay, can you just name some of the basic books which a teenager can get access to?
I would say the basic book, for example, is Ar-Rahiq al-Makhtoom, the Prophet's Seerah, for example. Okay, you can find it online free of charge. I think there are many PDF versions available.
Right.
You can also read Tarikh al-Khulafa of Imam Suyuti, right? It's a very brief history of the early days of Islam, right? And then you can start reading some basic tafsir. Tafhim al-Quran is a good one. Then you can also read Ibn Kathir if you have access to it. Everything is available online, free of charge. PDF versions. You type the name of the book, it appears, right? And read the Quran. That's very, very important. You will feel peace. Allah says in the Quran, "Allah bi dhikrillah tatma'innul qulub." A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Allah bi dhikrillah tatma'innul qulub. Is it not in the remembrance of Allah hearts find tranquility? So Allah is saying that hearts find tranquility in the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is my basic advice.
Okay, now because we were out of time, a question jo baar baar aata hai that is it the end of times, because it's going to be suspension of Hajj probably this year. So is it the same ahadith which is talking about the establishment of the hour? Or second question after that, what is it related to something like the plan of Greater Israel? What is that plan? Or some of people are waiting for Imam Mahdi. What's your take on that?
It was the end of times way before this pandemic. Minor signs of Yawm al-Qiyamah have already come to pass. According to the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, whatever things he predicted have already come to pass before this pandemic struck. And this pandemic is another minor sign of the Day of Judgment. The Prophet ﷺ said that there will be diseases near the end of time you have never heard of before. You have never seen anything like them, right? So this is one such case. Likewise, the Prophet ﷺ said these barefooted, naked, destitute Arabs will build skyscrapers, and not only that, they will compete in building them. Now, some of the tallest skyscrapers in the world are being built by the Bedouins, the Arabs, right? So all of these things have come to pass. Earthquakes, for example, tsunamis, right? The Prophet ﷺ foretold every single one of these in his report. So it was already time for the hour before this pandemic. We are simply getting closer. Things are moving very fast now. And I fear if not in our lifetime, maybe in the lifetimes of our children or grandchildren, major events will take place, and may Allah protect us.
And may Allah also protect them. I was discussing with my family. It feels like there's a minute reflection of the time that Dajjal is going to come. Okay, because this is nothing. But still,
obviously, Dajjal is on his way. He has been coming for a long time. A lot of things that were to take place before his coming are already taking place. We believe in the concept, of course, according to the reports of the Prophet ﷺ. Dajjal will come, and when he comes, only Allah knows, With regards to Imam Mahdi, we cannot say anything. Imam Mahdi is also a sign of the hour. And when he comes, then of course it would be the sign of the hour. But we shouldn't look forward to that. We must continue strengthening our bond with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what every Muslim has to do. You don't have to worry about all these cataclysmic events. If your bond, if your relationship with Allah is strong, then you have nothing to worry about. Whether you live or die, you have nothing to worry about. You're in the hands of the most loving, the most compassionate, the most powerful being. Okay? You are in his hands. So whatever happens, it happens by his will. And you have a good relationship with him, then you have nothing to worry about.
Okay. Sham Awan is saying Assalamu alaikum. Zainab Zafar is asking, is this corona a plague? Sheikh Asim said it's not a plague. We have answered this question before. If there's any other question, please let us know. And inshallah, then we will finish this.
Yes, it is. I don't regard this as a plague. Pandemic is not necessarily a plague. Plague is a very specific term used for certain things. It's not a plague.
If there are any more questions, you can just type below, and inshallah, Brother Adnan is going to come. And I would also like to take an opportunity that, Adnan bhai, whenever you come to Pakistan, let us know beforehand. Not like I'm in Pakistan, I'm in Lahore, and I'm going in 2 days. So whenever you come over, we would like to have your lectures over here, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Okay. So right now, I don't think so. There are more questions to it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Barakallahu lak. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.